You scroll through your phone at 11 p.m. The apartment is quiet. Nobody texts back. Something in your chest tightens, and you don't know why. It feels like sadness. It feels like weakness. But the real answer is far stranger. That tightening in your chest is not an emotion malfunctioning. It is a system working exactly as designed. Your brain built loneliness on purpose. For most of human history, being alone did not mean a quiet evening. It meant death. Your ancestors lived in small bands of 20 to 50 people. A person cut off from the group had no one to share food during a bad hunt. No one to warn them of a predator moving through the grass. No one to help carry a wounded body back to camp. Isolation was not an inconvenience. It was a countdown, ticking toward starvation or an ambush. Nobody survived alone. So evolution did what it always does when survival is on the line. It built an alarm. Hunger tells you your body is running out of fuel. Thirst tells you your body is running out of water. Loneliness tells you something just as urgent. It tells you your social safety net is running dangerously thin. The ache you feel scrolling alone at night is not proof that something is wrong with you. It is a warning light on a dashboard that has been running since before written language existed. And warning lights only exist because something they are protecting matters enormously. The neuroscientist John Cacioppo spent decades studying this exact ache. He found that loneliness activates the same regions of the brain that respond to physical threat. Your body, in other words, treats disconnection the way it treats danger crouched in the dark. Cacioppo's research showed something else too. Lonely people show elevated levels of cortisol, the stress hormone your body releases when it senses a threat it cannot immediately escape. Your nervous system does not distinguish neatly between "I am unsafe because a predator is near" and "I am unsafe because no one has spoken to me in 3 days." To an ancient brain, both messages arrive coded the same way. You are exposed. You are unprotected. Something needs to change before nightfall. Here is where it gets stranger. If loneliness evolved to protect you, why does it feel so bad? Because pain is the currency evolution uses to make you act. Physical pain stops you from leaving your hand on a hot stove. Social pain stops you from drifting away from your tribe without you even having to think about it. The psychologist Naomi Eisenberger ran brain scans on people experiencing social rejection and found activity in the anterior cingulate cortex, the same region that lights up during physical injury. Getting excluded from a group and breaking a bone trigger overlapping circuitry inside your skull. Your brain is not being dramatic when isolation hurts. It is using the only alarm system it has, and that system was built for bodily survival first, then quietly repurposed for social survival somewhere along the evolutionary timeline. Think about that the next time you feel a sting after being left out of a group chat, or after watching everyone else post photos from a night you weren't invited to. Your brain is not confused. It is not overreacting to something trivial. It is doing exactly what it was built to do 100,000 years ago, when exclusion from the group was a genuine matter of life and death. But there is a catch, and this is the part almost nobody talks about. The alarm was built for a world of 20 to 50 people, where everyone you would ever meet lived within walking distance of your fire. That world no longer exists. The anthropologist Robin Dunbar spent years studying primate brain size against social group size across dozens of species, and found a consistent pattern. The bigger the social brain relative to body size, the larger the group that species can stably track and maintain bonds within. For humans, Dunbar calculated the number lands somewhere around 150 meaningful relationships. Not thousands. Not the number of people who liked your last post. 150 faces your brain can hold as real, trackable relationships with actual social weight behind them. Now think about how many faces pass through your feed in a single afternoon. Hundreds. Maybe thousands, if you count every stranger's comment section you scrolled through before bed. Your alarm system was calibrated for a village. You are feeding it a city, then a country, then the entire internet, all before lunch. It cannot process that volume of contact as genuine connection, because none of it resembles the kind of bonding your ancestors relied on to survive. So the alarm keeps ringing. Not because you have no one. Often because you have hundreds of shallow contacts and almost no one who would notice, really notice, if you disappeared for a week. This is why you can be surrounded by people at a party and still feel a hollow ache on the drive home afterward. Numbers were never the point, and they never have been. Your ancient brain is not counting how many people know your name or follow your account. It is checking for something else entirely. Reliability. Depth. Whether someone would actually come looking for you if you went quiet. So what happens when the alarm rings and nobody answers it? This is where the warning system stops protecting you and starts damaging you instead. Cacioppo's long-term studies followed lonely individuals over years, not days, and the pattern that emerged was troubling. Chronic loneliness was associated with elevated blood pressure, weakened immune response, and disrupted sleep, comparable in some of his findings to the measurable health impact of smoking. A warning light left on for too long begins to drain the very battery it was meant to protect. Short-term loneliness pushes you toward connection, the way it's supposed to. Long-term loneliness, ignored for months or years, starts to corrode the body it was originally trying to save. That is the cruelest part of the design. The system assumes you will act on the signal quickly, the way your ancestors would have had to. Feel the ache, seek the tribe, resolve the threat, return to safety within hours or days. It was never built to be muted for years at a time while you sit alone in a well-lit apartment, scrolling, telling yourself you are fine. Here is the twist your ancient brain never saw coming. Modern life gave you 1,000 ways to simulate connection without ever actually satisfying the alarm underneath it. A notification sound. A string of emojis sent by someone you haven't spoken to in months. A video of a stranger talking directly into a camera lens as if speaking to you personally, alone in your room. These signals borrow the shape of real bonding closely enough to quiet the alarm for a moment, but not deeply enough to shut it off completely. You get a small hit of relief, then the ache returns within minutes, and you reach for the phone again, and again, and again. It is not weakness. It is a system responding exactly the way it was engineered to respond, applied to a stimulus it has never encountered anywhere in its evolutionary history. Look around at how many people quietly admit to feeling this way. Loneliness researchers have watched the numbers climb for decades, not just among the elderly living alone, but among teenagers with hundreds of online friends and adults working from a laptop in a bedroom, never once leaving the building. Work moved into the home. Errands moved onto an app. Entire friendships now live entirely inside a text thread that hasn't been a voice call in over a year. None of this is a personal failure. It is simply an environment that removed almost every accidental moment of real contact your ancestors used to stumble into just by existing in a shared space, the hallway conversation, the walk to the well, the fire everyone gathered around because there was, quite literally, nowhere else warm to be. Your ancestors never had to try to be around people. Proximity was the default setting of being alive. You, on the other hand, have to build it on purpose, schedule it into a calendar, drive across a city for it. The alarm hasn't adjusted to any of that. It still expects the old world, the one with a fire and a circle of familiar faces closing in around it every single night. So it keeps ringing in a world that made real presence the exception instead of the rule. So what do you actually do with an alarm like this? Can it even be answered anymore? You cannot silence it with more notifications, because it was never built to be satisfied by symbols of people. It was built to be satisfied by presence. Eisenberger's research on social pain found something hopeful buried in the data. The same circuitry that lights up during rejection calms measurably down during genuine physical closeness, a hand resting on a shoulder, a hug that lasts more than a few seconds, sustained eye contact during a real, unhurried conversation. These are not small gestures, even though they can feel small in the moment. To your ancient nervous system, they are proof of life. Proof that the tribe is intact. Proof that if a predator came tonight, or if you simply didn't wake up tomorrow, someone would notice you were missing. Dunbar's number offers a strange kind of relief here too, once you sit with it. You do not need 1,000 connections. You do not need to be liked by strangers on the internet who will forget your name by morning. Your entire alarm system can be satisfied by a small handful of people who would actually show up when it mattered. Historically, that number has always been small. A few close relationships did more for your ancestors' survival than an entire village of distant acquaintances ever could. The same math still applies to you today, even in a world built, almost accidentally, to convince you otherwise. So the next time that ache shows up, at 11 p.m., scrolling, waiting for a reply that isn't coming, try naming it correctly. It is not proof that you are broken. It is not evidence that something is wrong with your personality or your worth as a person. It is a 100,000-year-old alarm system, still running the same code it ran when your ancestors slept in circles around a fire for warmth and protection, still checking the same question it has always checked, night after night, generation after generation. Is my tribe intact? You scroll through your phone at 11 p.m. The apartment is quiet. Nobody texts back. But now you know what that tightening in your chest actually is. Not a flaw in you. A warning system, doing exactly what it was built to do, still waiting for you to answer it the way your ancestors always did. Not with another notification. With someone who would actually come looking.